Hey guys, say hi. Oh, we're out here on a walk. Look at this. That wasn't there the other day. I just grew there. Isn't that weird? Looks like that one we saw, I guess, the other day up on that tree. Huh. Fuzzy. Some really neat mushrooms here. Anyway. So guys, I'm going to take a little walk with the dog. I hadn't got a video today and been researching some things. Oh man, guys. Okay, this is a lot of leaves on the ground, so you probably won't be able to hear me too much, so I won't say too much before I get over there into the grass. But look how beautiful it is. I got some things I want to tell you today, guys. It's important things. Let you know some of the things that been going through my mind and the things I'm putting together. It's we're gonna have a whole series of videos that's gonna just blow your mind here soon. It's getting evening, the sun's starting to go down. It's gonna have a nice sunset, so I'm gonna get over there where we're going instead of just lollygagging around here in the leaves. And it's hard to talk with these leaves on the ground. So I'm gonna get out there and we'll go that way. Oh, hope you're having a wonderful day, guys. I'm having the best day. Oh, it's so amazing. Wow. Look at that. Huh. Oh, wow. Hi, guys. Oh, I have learned some things and been in prayer for days. Time, guys, we're going to have some faithful individuals that are willing to pray, stand in the gap. The Lord's about ready to reveal a lot of stuff to all of us who are looking for the truth. That's a little better, huh? Not so many leaves out here in this field. Well, last night, some of you have already seen this information. I hadn't really, I don't watch a lot of videos. And everybody's been telling me about the mud flood. Oh, Dave, you got to go look at the mud flood. See, what I've looked into on that is just, it's come up nothing, nothing, honey. There's certainly a lot of things that people start looking into that it's just an illusion, or it's one of these conspiracies that people start by the Bavarians, to confuse us, like the flat earth. And I certainly can understand where people are searching and they already know that we've been lied to about so many things. And so, one of the big things that people are being lied to about is our world and our science, and NASA's lying to us on lots of things. So, since we don't know what the truth really is, and somebody comes along and says, oh, here's what it is. The earth is upside down and backwards, and you're like, oh, okay. And it's a different upside down and backwards. So they want us to look silly, and they want to present us with information. And I think what's happening is people aren't getting real scientific proof, but they're getting, smooth talkers that are talking us into believing in, we believe in these things, these conspiracies, based on the fact that we don't believe in what they've been telling us. So if anybody comes along and tells us something else that's completely opposite, and we're like, wow, let's look into that. And I don't blame you. That's what I do too. Only I haven't done a lot of research, because when I was doing all that, like you guys are now, with flat earth or whatever, I started looking into stuff like that when I was like, so many years ago, 30 years ago. And at that time, you know, there was these little, you know, I looked into the flat earth then. Only it was called the hollow earth then, you know. And it was New Age stuff. And I didn't know what to think about New Age stuff either at the time. But I noticed that there was a lot of weird things going on. So I did a lot of praying, and the Lord told me that's not all true. It's all stuff that, you know, some Bavarians made up to kind of get us off the right path so that nobody would spend enough time truly looking into things and praying on their knees to try and find the truth. Rather than just spending hours on our living room divan scrolling through YouTube, which is now what it's become, Facebook and YouTube, people are just listening to all these Bavarian theories that are leading us off the path. It's kind of like you're hunting for fox and you got a hound, you know, and the hound picks up the scent. Well, the only way to get away from that or around that so that the hounds don't catch you is you got to throw them off. You know, you can take off your shoes and walk through the river. We're almost there. Oh, look at these birds. We'll get back to what we're saying here, guys. I got some very important things to tell you. Please don't click off. Not only some beautiful sights we're going to be seeing here, but we got some important information for you. Oh, I don't want to disturb these ducks until we get over there or go closer. Some kind of birds. Oh my goodness. Oh man. Boy, everything's scared. At least little noise scares them. Oh, don't go away, guys. It won't hurt you. They saw these puppies. It ain't their fault, though. Oh, wow. Is there still some over there? I don't think so. Okay, well. Anyway. As beautiful as the scenery is right now, I've got some things I need to tell you. So you got these, and I'm going to tell you this to preface what I'm going to say, because I know a lot of you are like, oh, I already studied all that, Dave. I know all about it. You know, I watched the video. You know, well. I'm trying to tell you, most of the stuff you're watching is throwing you off. We're not on the right path here. There's a big, big revelation about our past, about stuff, about science, about the world we live in. It is even much better than you would even imagine or could believe. And the stuff that we're being told is just to throw us off, like the flat earth. It's not the real truth. It's just something to throw us off of the path, like, you know, getting the scent in the, you know, off of us by walking through the river, and you know, throwing the hounds off. So one of the big things I've been hearing, and I've heard about it, and I even watched a video or two about it, is this whole mud flood thing. And that just, you know, I certainly see where or why people are interested in that. But what I want to do is I want to say, let's get rid of the word mud flood. Okay, so, because what you're seeing in some of the information that you're getting about the mud flood is information we need to be looking at. Okay, there's some information we need to be looking at for sure. But let's not call it a mud flood, because that's not what happened. It wasn't a big mud flood. That's not what happened. And I probably won't be able to get completely to that today. And I'm not done with what we were talking about yesterday. We got to the Poseidon and the sea deity. Wait till you find out more about that. And then we're going to tell you who the Igigi is. And we're going to, we're going to go into who Anu and his 3 sons are, right? Who is Uranus with his 3 sons, Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon. And who are these original 8 deities? There's a little, in the Sumerian tablets, there's a little star with 8 kind of spokes. 3 or 4 of the spokes are little diamonds, or not diamonds, they're triangles. And the other 4 on the bottom side are straight lines. And that represents the 8 original deities, or the Anunnaki. Why 8? Because there were 8 souls that went on the flood, on the boat. And that's the story of Atlantis. And so there were these 8 children of Anu, Anunnaki. Yeah, I misinformed you the other day by saying that the word Anunnaki probably refers to Inky, but that's probably not true. In fact, it's not true. I spent a lot of time in prayer, and I've worked out a few things and details that I actually wasn't completely aware of. But the Anunnaki are 8 deities. Sometimes it mentions other deities as Anunnaki only because they're children of the Anunnaki. But for the most part, in the Sumerian tablets, it calls them the Igigi, and that word is a specific word that we're going to explain. It has to do with the Nephilim. They're not the gods. And guess who the gods are? Yeah. Noah, Anu, Ipetus, Poseidon. So we'll talk about that tomorrow, probably. I'm just kind of wetting your whistle that there's a whole bunch more. We're going to find out what this, because a lot of people are all upset about atrahasis, and there's a lot. This is a part of why I'm really telling you to be careful when you read all these conspiracy theories, because it's leading you away from Jesus, some of it, leading you away from the belief in the divine being. We're like, well, they're just some astronauts, right? And yeah, right there in the atrahasis, they create man from some mud. 14 deities, 7 males and 7 females. And this Nirnhertzag, or Ninurta, or whatever, she makes them. Who's this? Namu. Well, Namu is Neama. All these letters, right? It's hard to keep them all straight. But in the Bible, we've got Noah, who marries a woman who is in the line of Cain. That's Mama. That's the original Mama. And she's the dragon queen. And she ends up having 7 sons. That's the 7 nations of Canaan, or the children of Cain, or the Canaanites that get through the flood through Naama. So she's the dragon mother. She's the concubine of Noah, or Anu. Ham has relations with her, and they make the Igigi, who were the laborers. And Enki goes down to the southern area into what they call the Absu, which is a nation called the Abyssinia, which is Eastern Africa, and they make mines. So I'm gonna just wet your whistle that there are some real things going on here, and we're gonna untwine the narrative and explain what it's talking about. What Joseph Smith said was true. Our divine father is Adam. By the way, Adam lived 1,000 years according to our Septuagint version and the Samaritan Pentateuch, as well as the Masoretic version. It's similar. And Adam happens to pass away just before Enoch takes the whole city up into heaven. 144,000. And of course, when Enoch does that, he leaves behind Methuselah, who gives birth to Lamech. And Lamech gives birth to Noah. Noah was 600 years old when the flood came. So Noah was in Atlantis for 600 years. Noah's birth is just after Adam dies. So Noah is the father, Anu, who is also Adam. All comes from Atum. So the deities come and they reincarnate. They go from the higher world back into this lower world, and they come back into the world. So Noah is the Anu, January, Uranus, who goes through the ocean, which is, Pisces and Aquarius and the Aquaman and all this stuff. So we've kind of covered all that. I'm just showing you there's just all this information we're gonna present. What I'm getting at here, aside from it just being a tease for what we're going to be talking about, is that the creation of man is not the creation from a test tube. That's not what that's about. It's very symbolic, and it has to do, just like the deities that were the primordial deities like Absu, which means the abyss, which they named a country after, Africa, the Abyssinia, which, by the way, that nowadays we call it Ethiopia. But that's not crazy, but Ethiopia was literally the western horn of Africa. Most of Africa was Ethiopia. The eastern side of the Nile was called Abyssinia, or Absu. And that's where Enki went and set up his kingdom. And it was his people that were set to hard labor, and they got tired of it. And so, yes, there may be, when we talk about layers, it may also be talking about something in more ancient times, this, instead of just the creation of man and Noah and the flood and all that, it's also going back, it's a story that tells you about deeper things. This is the creation of the whole real creation of the world. So they put this eschatology down in the story of this family called Noah and his 3 sons. It's history, and these are the patriarchs. These are the deities. Because what are the deities? Well, they're certainly not chaos and this dragon mother that's the solar system. That's just they're not people, okay? And mind hadn't happened yet. Logos hadn't come, and love, and forethought, and wisdom, Sophia, and these kinds of things develop later. They are the true divine beings. Man is the true divine being that came from the chaos. But this whole story of the Igigi and the Anunnaki we'll get into, but it's not a creation from the test tube. It is the fact that there was only a few of them. The Igigi are these children of the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki is just 8 beings. The 8 that went through the flood. They're gods because they went from the other side of the world. They were from a different realm. All of the children born after the flood. What do you got? Ooh, yuck. I bet you got good breath now, huh? What is that, a crab or something? Oh, crawdad or something there? Oh, you got part of it too? You guys, go eat your, making noises. I don't want to take away your bones. You go over there and eat. Go over there. You make too much noise and it's gross. Go over there. Go over there. Take your bone. No, go over there. Take your bone over there. Yeah, go over there and eat. Anyway, dogs, I love them to deathest. I love them. They like to eat nasty things. So here I am off on another tangent about information that I was planning on telling you today, but then I got last night on this other tangent that I've got to talk to you about. That's going to blow your mind. We're going to do videos on it. That's when I was talking to you just a second ago about the mud flood. Okay, so it's not a mud flood. That's not what happened. There's something else going on. So then there's this other little conspiracy thing that ties in with this, and I think people that believe in the flat earth and the missing 1,000 years of history, and there's another theory about the 1,000-year reign of Christ has already happened and it's about over, and now we're going to go through that little season at the end of the 1,000 years. And there's all these theories, and it's kind of taken on this, people use this term mud flood, but they also are talking about the Tartarians. Well, let me just tell you briefly, because we're going to do a whole video on all of this. We're going to put all this out there. We're going to explain it all in detail because, okay, there was such a thing as the Tartarians, but you have to understand what this is. What's being hidden from you is that all the world is Israel, okay? Like Paul says in 1 Corinthians, that our fathers up in Corinth, we were all under the law, under the cloud with Moses. We were all baptized into Moses. We all went through the Red Sea. We all were standing there, and we all said, this we will do. It's like a wedding. And we're all guilty because we made a vow and signed a contract, and we're all under this world, in this flesh, the contract of this deity that rules this world. This is the world we live in, and we're bound like a husband and a wife in a relationship until death do its part. And so we're all under the law. Every nation is one of the tribes. There's 72 souls that came out of the loins of Jacob. All of this that we've talked about. So what they're doing is they're trying to hide that from you. They want you to believe that it was just Darwin, just the Big Bang. There's no, there's no purpose to any of this. And there's no, well, they've severed us from knowing who the true divine being is. Now, Joseph Smith, as I said, is a Latter-day Prophet, and there's a reason for why Joseph Smith came. There were prophets that have to come every 1,000 years. We've got David, which was 1,000 BC, and Abraham, which is 2,000 BC, and before that. And after that, and Joseph Smith was the 7th angel. And so who was the 6th angel? Well, we don't have anybody, or do we? I've talked about Peter Waldo in other videos, who led the Waldensians and the Inquisition, and was a completely, totally amazing person who also could be Merlin, and we've talked about that. So no, I don't believe that we're missing 1,000 years of history. And I don't believe there was a mud flood. That's ridiculous. But there are some very, very strange things that I want to talk about. I have a video. I'll put a link in this video. I'll put that link. I'll remember to do that, because I need you to watch that video before we do the one tomorrow. Because I want you to understand beyond a shadow of a doubt that what I'm about to say is true. And I did not know this until yesterday. I had not heard this part of it. I tried, patiently to look at a couple videos that people were showing me about the mud flood. I didn't agree with that. And the Tartarians, I was telling you what they are. The Tartarians is up in Turkey. That's Tartar. That's the Tartarians, Turkey. Well, who is that? That's Syria. That's that area up around Turkey or Syria, Asia Minor, where Peter and Paul said the dispersed ones of Israel were, and they went up there to Antioch and all this place, and we found now Jesus came from Edessa up there. Mary's a woman who was, from Cleopatra VII. We've gone through so much history, it's just really beginning to fit now, really beginning to take on proportions that it's like we're exposing and pulling these things together, and the Lord is just, I just keep praying to the Lord and asking for guidance and direction, and I'm pouring through all this information, and it's just huge revelation. So when, in 700 BC, when the Israelites, the 10 tribes, were taken to Nineveh, where's that? Up on the Tigris River in Nineveh, up in the northern area up towards Syria. It was the nation of Assyria. Okay, Assyria. But it's in the northern area up towards Syria, at the headwaters of the Tigris and the Euphrates. And history tells us from there they went over the Caucasus Mountains. But they stayed there in Turkey, in that area. They were these Tartarians. And they spread out, each of the tribes, and went to all the nations of the earth, east, west, north, and south. Many of them, there were different dispersions. There was the one in 70 AD, where some of them, we know some of them went to Africa, over through Morocco, went to the Americas and stuff like that. But the original 10 tribes, there was 2 different dispersions there. A group of them went to Africa, some of them went to Indonesia, some of them went all the way to America. Those are the Native Americans we have there today, many of them. The Olmecs is from another long time ago, and these temples, the Temple of Enoch in Noctigland, the Olmecs said it was there when they got there. That's from Thoth, who built it thousands and thousands of years ago before the flood. The only one that's really still standing today from before the flood is that one there in Egypt at the Great Pyramid there in Egypt. Khufu and stuff. So, but there was a mass exodus or group of these Israelites that in history become the Scythians. They went to the east to become Mongolians, and they went and civilized and colonized. They went across the Caucasus Mountains, went into Europe, became the Celts. They went down to the Iberian Peninsula, Spain. All the world is Israel. And they started a vast civilization. Then there's another wave of individuals that were from Dan on his ships. These are the pirates. These are the Skull and Bones. These are later on the Red Cross individuals. The Rosicrucians, who now are the chief of the... They took over the Templars and infiltrated. They killed them, the massacre of the original Templars. And they took over a lot of their wealth. Well, they didn't get very much of it because they would flee. They were protectors of the Holy Grail, and they were the children of Mary Magdalene and the knights. They went to Britain, and when they got there, they were already children of Judah, which is the royal line from Ireland, Scotland, and Britain. Okay, that's not the modern London, which was taken over by the Danites, which is these Vikings that are the Goths that started a war with Rome. Remember how Nero fiddled while Rome burned? Well, the reason it burned down is the same reason that they burned everything wherever they went. They burned the libraries, they burned the cities, and when they got to America, they burned down the civilization that was here. There was a vast civilization here in America. Some of you have probably already looked into this, but I'll show you it's a 2-hour video that explains in detail, in absolute unmistakable detail, that when they got to America, these Native Americans did not create it, just like the Olmecs didn't make that Teotihuacan, Inuktitut and all of that, and Quetzalcoatl is Thoth, not an Olmec. Whoa. But the city of Chicago was originally a grand city. Bigger, it rivaled Rome, Alexandria, Constantinople. It rivals any city you've ever heard, Athens. This city was magnificent. And it was called Chilago. Okay, Chilago. And we have pictures of that city in 1800. In 1893. It's so amazing. There were 200 magnificent buildings. This is where the first skyscraper was ever discovered. They say, what these guys, these from Dan that came over here and took over, right, and started this, taking Washington, D.C., and killed the natives and all that. They weren't the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims were the good people. And they came here and they were friends with the natives, and they were living in peace. You've seen Thanksgiving, right? The whole story. But it was another group of people that came on waves, these pirates, these Red Cross individuals like Columbus. So he made the District of Columbus, and up in Canada there's Columbia, and so there's the Columbian River in Washington. So he went everywhere, and he just owns it all now, right? Just Columbus. Well, that's the ship that brought over they didn't bring over Israelites. Israelites came before them. Native people from Israel that were scattered and it's been erased from history. They were bringing over Dan ships. They were bringing over the Germanic tribes that were trying to wipe out and destroy from Satan. So the Illuminati today was also made in 1776 to counter the other, Constitution of America in 1776. It was given to us by the good guys. Well, in 1893, you can see a picture of this. You can see pictures of St. Louis that used to have, I think it was like 1,500 of these big buildings. And we're talking about buildings that are just like architecture, like from ancient, like pyramids and domes and water fountain. There's a statue in Chilago that we have pictures of today. Beautiful city that is that was burned down in 1893 or 4, because they didn't want us to know about it. But what they did, because they couldn't just burn it down without explanation. You're like, well, where'd this come from? So they decided to say, oh, look at this. We just built this city in a few months, 6 months they built it. And they said they built it out of plaster. It wasn't real. So all the pictures you see of this is just not real. Well, anyway, I won't go too much more into that. They did it in St. Louis, San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco has these big cities. New York has big cities. There's these, there was this big, what would you call, like a monument, like the Washington Monument, but it's one of these pillars, right, that you see in Egypt and so forth, in Chicago. And I believe it was one of the original. Well, when they burnt that down, they took it and they put it in the New York, you know, in the park there in New York. And they say that that pillar is one that came from Egypt. So who brought it over originally? And, you know, why would it be standing? Why would they go through all the trouble to put in this statue, this pillar there in Chicago? It rivaled any city that's you've ever seen before in your life. And right beside it, there's this big statue. I don't know how many feet in the air it was. It looks like a bat, doesn't it? Oh boy. And it's this big statue, you know, like the Statue of Liberty or whatever. It's made out of some metal, bronze or gold, I don't know. We just have pictures of it. And it's holding in one hand this Tartarian symbol, what they're claiming is a Tartarian symbol. And so why would they build this city in 6 months out of stucco and then burn it all down? Oh, I could go into some things. And we're going to talk about why these cities were here in America. It's not a Tartar. Well, you could say it's Tartar. I'll go with Tartaria. Although I don't want to call it that because that's just one of the names that they had. That, you know, there are some old maps that you can find where they had the whole world mapped out. And by the way, at the time that Chicago existed, like 1700, there's maps. We have it. It was there, you know, before 1893 and stuff. And in those maps, like 1800, there's no Great Lakes. There are no Great Lakes. It's just a big gorge, kind of a canal. Like it starts off real wide and it gets, you know, skinnier and skinnier and skinnier and goes all the way down to St. Louis. So they had a city in St. Louis and then all the way up through the Great Lakes, these major big cities. There was probably, you know, any number of these cities. Joseph Smith said there was a city called Zarahemla and a city called Manti. I had thought that, what is that city? Cahokia, along the Mississippi there, just south of St. Louis. I thought that was the original city of Manti they were talking about. But now I'm not completely sure because of these other pictures that we're now finding out about. So when you see this link that I'm going to give you in the bottom here, I want you to click on it and watch it. It's 2 hours. You can put it on speed, you know, 2 times the speed in places if it gets too long or whatever, but especially watch the first part. And by the time you watch that, you'll be convinced that we are really being lied to big time. People like Edison, Tesla, he didn't invent all that stuff. Tesla's the one that did all the electrical, right? The alternating current. Edison wasn't allowed, you know, with his DC, direct current. He didn't get he wanted too much money. He wanted like $1 million or something like that. And Tesla said he'd do it for $399,000 or something. And they lit up the whole place. They had lights. But that's just a big fraud. Tesla didn't invent that. That was technology that was there. And they couldn't let the people know that they were going to just, you know, because it wasn't theirs. It didn't belong to them. But they found it. And they wanted to charge us for it and control us and make us pay for it. And they didn't want us to know about these cities because then we'd know that this civilization that they're building is not something they're building. It's not their technology. They stole it. Well, remember, there's no television. There's no phone, so nobody knew about it, right? But a few people in histories will tell you that they saw these cities. And they were not fake. They were not plaster. They were real. Anyway, you'll see that whole video if you watch it. So we're going to talk about that and history and where all of this comes from and all the lies that we've been told. And it's getting dark. So I probably don't necessarily know if I want to walk through the dark. It's getting too dark, so I'll start walking back, guys. I don't know how much you'll be able to see as I walk because it's getting dark. It's always a little brighter in the camera. Now I was going to do a video, originally today about all this information, you know, starting from where I left off with Poseidon and tell you about the Igigi and who they were, and you know how mankind was made and what that refers to. It's not a story about how the gods made man out of a test tube. It's a story about Anu, or Noah, and his 3 sons, and they didn't want to labor and build cities and build the world back because everybody died. There just was 8 people left. So they started having children, but they were about 600 of them, and that's the Igigi, and they were complaining because they had to do all the work. And the Anunnaki, which is the sons of Anu, which there was 8 of them, and the mother Naama, Cain's concubine, we'll talk about how she fits in the whole thing and how she's the one that actually created these individuals that they created from clay, and the Igigi spit on them. And they killed one of the gods. By the way, they killed a god whose name is Yeshua. Okay, the G may be silent and it may be Yeshua. I'm not kidding you. He's called the god of intelligence or wisdom or logos. And they killed him, and by his blood and his flesh, they gave life to this new creation. Now, I know it'd be easy to believe that this is, you know, some astronauts making a test tube baby, but that's not what it's telling you. That's not what the story's about. The story's about the 8 that got through on the flood. They couldn't work, you know, themselves. They couldn't do all the labor to rebuild the world. They had to have children, many, many, many children. They had to raise up seed. And they needed... so it's a story about the children of Cain getting through. And they came through this Ninhursag mother, the dragon mother, who is Tiamat in other stories. The 7-headed dragon. She's a 7-headed dragon because she produces the Canaanites that have 7 nations. So the killing of the dragon is really the wiping out of the Canaanites, the giants. And so there's another story, of course, that we'll talk about that carries it even further, and mythological understanding of it. But in the literal history that it is telling, it's telling the story of Noah and his 3 sons and 3 daughters and his wife. And his wife was a concubine of Cain. And Naama is a mama. Okay, so since she goes back to Cain, they didn't consider her offspring as high as the, you know, the children of the Anunnaki. So they put them to work as slaves. But now don't you worry, because wait till you find out. See, because a lot of people will try to blame all this on Anu because he didn't do anything about it. And Jesus says, his Father in heaven is Anu. And he is love. He says, the Father himself loves you. Well, see, that's why Jesus was sent in the first place. Because the story is much more deep than just somebody who didn't want to work and made slaves to do their work for him. Okay, I'm losing my thought because I'm trying to walk through some cow patties and stuff like that, and it's getting dark. I'm going to get going in through the leaves. I think I'm going to leave it there, and we'll get into that tomorrow in real depth and explain why they made these slaves. That's weird. Oh, I guess it goes this way. I'm kind of confused where I'm walking. Ooh. because it's a little dark and I was disoriented because I'm not even thinking about what I'm watching. That's why I can't really talk right now, because it's kind of getting, it's a lot darker than it looks even on the camera. I'm like pitch black out here, so I can't really talk. So we'll have to do this tomorrow. I didn't get to tell you very much about what I wanted to tell you. I'm sorry. It's best I could do today. I definitely will try my hardest to get a good video out, to give you a lot of details tomorrow. Just things that I'm putting together, like Josh and I were talking on the phone earlier. My friend Josh that I did that interview with, he's got a YouTube channel called the Sons of God Ministry. You should check it out. But we were talking about some of this stuff, and he'd heard about all these cities and stuff, the Tartarian conspiracy and stuff. And, you know, we were talking about the theory that, you know, the 1,000 years is already over, and people have that theory too. And we got to talking about how, you know, I don't know, about over a year ago, I guess. I did now. It's been, time goes by so fast. But I did that video. I didn't even know that was that long ago, but I did a few videos, probably 3 or 4 videos in a row, about these big cities under the ocean, and you can see them. And I've got pictures of all of it. There's cities that have 5-mile high walls and like 100-mile diameter cities, square, like castle-like cities under the ocean off the coast of Costa Rica, and then tunnels and corridors leading to all the ports of the world, and you can see UFO bases or some sort of technology, flying disc bases or something, that go to the ports, especially military ports. Like there's one in San Francisco Bay Area, and there's some in Australia, and there's tunnels leading to Antarctica and stuff like that. So you might want to go back and take a look at that here at some point. I'm going to give you a lot of videos that you should go ahead and watch if you're interested in this. And that whole series that I did is part of this. Because we need to, if we're going to understand what's going on, things that we've been lied to, we're going to have to know, we're going to have to watch that video that will be in the link beneath this video, a 2-hour video that proves that all these cities were here when we got here. And then watch that series that I did, that shows the cities under the ocean. Guys, here comes that guy again, so I'm going to shut my camera off. And I'm going to get this uploaded, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. I hope you have a wonderful day, and may the Lord bless you. See you later.